Hello YouTube, this is a video I'm recording to show how I am going to build a sulky for my walk-behind mower. As I mentioned in a previous video, I just got a 48-inch Bunton, used Bunton walk-behind, and I immediately wanted to put a sulky on it or buy a sulky for it, but I didn't realize how expensive they were. They're to the tune of around, almost $500 for a decent one. At least, $400 or $500 for a decent one. So I looked online hoping that they would be more reasonable, and they really weren't. Anything below like, $200 was really in bad shape or just not very good. And then anything above that was, to get anything decent, you're still looking at, $300-ish, probably a little more, to get something that's good and in good shape. So I already have a welder and an angle grinder, so I figured I'd buy the materials and try to make it myself. I just went to Lowe's and bought all this hardware. You can get this on Amazon, and I will put links to all this in the video description. So if you want to know, what these parts are, just check there. But anyway, so that is a piece of, on the bottom is a piece of 24-inch by 24-inch 16-gauge sheet metal. That's going to be the deck. The two wheels are 9-inch wheels with a, I think it's a 5/8 center. That's going to be the frame. That's going to be, attached to the mower. That is 1-inch square steel channel. The one on the top is 48 inches or 4 feet. The one directly below it is 3 foot length of the same size. And then there's a bunch of bolts that I'm going to use for the wheels. And I got this from another video, but what I'm going to do is weld these two at a 90-degree angle, and this is going to come, so one side is going to come down from the frame, and the other one that I have, which is here, will be 90 degrees off of it, and that will attach to the frame. So this one side will attach to the deck, the other will attach to the frame, and I'm going to weld the bolts at a 90-degree angle like this, so that the sulky can turn side to side with the threads, and it can tilt side to side with the other one. And then on the front end, I have it's not exact, and I'm not sure if I'm actually going to use this, but I bought some 1/2-inch pipe, and I'm going to weld it to the end of the frame that attaches to the sulky, and then just put a pin through it. So this will be welded to the frame, and then I have some angle iron that I have that I already had. So I'll just drill a hole in it, and I'll put this pin through to hold it to the mower. And then a couple 5/8 or 5/16. I forget what size these are, but these I'm going to try to use to attach the sulky to the mower. And that's about it for now. So let's get going. Okay, so start off with the bracket. This is 2 pieces of angle iron back to back, welded through the outside and the inside. And then I put a hole, it's a 1/2 inch hole to accommodate the pin. And then I welded that to a piece of plate that I had and drilled 4 holes in it, and that's how it's attached to the mower. Oops, just dropped that, but that's okay. It's a simple thing. Yeah, so that's that. So far, so good. I have a feeling I may have to make another one of these that's a little thicker, but for now it works, so we'll see how long that goes. And then as for the actual deck, there are some things that I had I known or thought more about it, I would have done differently, but for the most part, I'm pretty happy with this. So there were a couple of changes that I had to make, which I did off camera. First of which was this. This is the end that hooks up to the mower. I had tried to use a very small piece of tube and weld it there, but that didn't work. So what I did here, and you can kind of see on end, I got a bunch of washers, and it ended up being like, I think 11 washers, 1/2 inch washers, and then I cut it at an angle and re-welded it. The reason I cut it at an angle is to give myself as much linear distance to weld it to this angle frame as I possibly could. And so far it seems to be holding up. I think this part is not gonna wear out anytime soon. So you can see right down the hole, it's straight. I just made sure that it was straight before I welded it together. Yeah, I welded all the washers together, then did the grind that I told you about. So it's just, you kind of can't see it since I painted it, but it basically makes a 90-degree angle here, and then welded that to this bracket. And so far so good. The next thing I did off camera was this. I actually had 2 of these channels, which is the same, by the way, as this. I had 2 of these channels welded on top of each other, but it turns out that was actually too high, so it didn't give me enough ground clearance. And you can see these are 8-inch wheels, and you can see the amount of clearance that I have, which is about 2 inches or so, maybe a little better than 2 or 3 inches. So right now, it's pretty good. So I had to do that on both sides. It was a bit of a pain in the butt, but I got it done, so there you go. And then lastly, because this is just, mild or just regular steel, I did end up sanding it before I painted it, but that's not, nothing too earth-shattering there. I just found the closest spray paint I could to the base. It matches well enough. You can kind of see, you can tell it's not obviously the same thing, the same color, but it works well enough. So yeah, that's about it. And then just to show you what the underside of this looks like, there it is, which I'm glad I did because, so these are the angle irons. There's one here, this one's obviously facing down. This one's welded underneath. Again, if I had to do this differently, I would have done a lot more clamping so I don't have as much gap between this as I do now. But again, it's not gonna go anywhere anytime soon. And like I said, I have about 2 inches of about 3 inches of ground clearance now. This is the bolts that I welded together. So you've got the side to side. It'll rotate. Hold this with my feet. It'll rotate from side to side, as you can see there, as well as turn side to side. So the trick here, just making sure you put a lot of weld material between the 2 bolts to hold them steady. I thought that was going to be a failure point, but so far it seems pretty rigid, so I'm cautiously optimistic that won't break. But frankly, since this is homemade, even if it does, all I have to do is just, get another set of bolts and make it myself. Lastly, this is just oil. I put some grease, gear oil in here and in here to make this spin a little bit better. So that's all you're seeing there. But yeah, so far so good. I've used this once. Oh, and of course I put this is non-stick, non-slip tape for outdoor use. They usually make these for outdoor stairs. If you got wooden stairs, it's just tape with you can kind of see it there. Just tape with a lot of grit on it. The other thing you could do is you could go to a paint shop. They do sell paint with sand in it. So the other option you could do if you really wanted to make sure that you didn't slip on this was get some of that paint. You can get it for like concrete and paint this with it. So the whole surface, the whole upper deck would be painted in a non-slip fashion. So yeah, there it is. Yeah, I know my welds are this. I spent more time welding this than I have ever spent before. But yeah, there it is. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with it. There are some things that I should have done a little differently. I'll just lay it there. For starters, I would have made this a touch longer because when you pull this to reverse it, the wheels actually get caught about here. So there isn't enough ground clearance. So if this was a little longer, I would be able to do that. But otherwise, yeah, this thing works just fine. I'll give you a quick demo of it. I will also post some pictures. I'll slideshow some pictures of this thing. So if you want to see what I did, you can get that. I will also have links to all the parts that I use in the video description below. So you can make one of these yourself. But again, you know, this was about just over $200 in parts when it was all said and done, and maybe a weekend of my time. But you know, this works really well, and I did not end up having to spend the $500 that I would have on a brand new Sulky, because that was a bit much for what I wanted to spend. But yeah, there it is. It's not the prettiest, but it does work. I'll give you a demo now. So before I get to the demo, there's one thing I forgot to mention. I am about 6'2", so that's part of the reason why I originally wanted to make that Sulky as low as possible, because I was told that if, you know, for taller folks, the higher you make the Sulky, the more bending over you're going to have to do, which of course makes perfect sense, and the more your back will hurt over time. So by making it as low as possible, that means you have to bend over less, but it gives you a whole lot less ground clearance, which I was scraping stuff, you know, any divot and whatnot in the yard, you'll be scraping the bottom as you go over it, which would have been fine, I think. But you know, I've already had the tools out and was already in a position to just, you know, cut off what I had, the mistake that I did, and re-weld it. So I just went ahead and did that. But nevertheless, without further ado, here we go.